Let's get going now. I think quite a few people have joined, and I know Lisette's planning to play at first, so that'll give a few people an extra minute or two to log on. So welcome to our fourth webinar in our Meet the Instrument series. I'm Tati Theo. I'm cellist and director of the Brook Street Band, and I'm delighted to welcome you back this morning. I know some of you have been with us for all our webinars so far, which have alternated between the violin family and the recorder family, and it gives me huge pleasure to introduce Lisete da Silva Bull, who I know many of you already know, who's a fabulous recorder, player and flautist and communicator, to play for us this morning. I know Lisette's got loads and loads planned. Our sessions are available afterwards on YouTube because there'll be a lot of information, and if you don't catch it all at the time, do subscribe to us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel and watch back again. And I know Lisette's got musical examples, recorders prepared, lots of fun facts, and also do feel free to ask questions. And usually we reserve questions till the end of the session, but I think the chat function is so good here that if you've got questions you want to ask as we go, do ping me a text. I'm sitting here fielding questions, and I'll put them to Lisette, who will be delighted to answer them. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Lisete da Silva Bull to our family webinar, Meet the Instruments. Welcome, Lisette.
Thank you, Tati. It's a real delight to be back, and welcome everyone. I'm going to start by playing a beautiful Prelude by Hotteterre, and I'll talk a little bit about him afterwards. I'm playing on my voice flute, which is a tenor recorder in D, made in boxwood by the wonderful Tim Cranmore, who's a British maker.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lisette.
Thank you. Pleasure. Real pleasure. I thought that would be lovely to start with some playing. These Hotteterre preludes are from a book called L'art de Preluder, which is the art of improvising. And very often is a very common 18th century practice for players to improvise before they play on a certain key, and I thought it would be nice to play written improvisation from the very beginning. Now, last week, last session, we talked in quite broad and general terms about how amazing and wonderful the recorder is, and what actually possibly was the culprit for the terrible name and sort of image it has as you know, squeaky instrument for primary school children. And I think we demystified quite a few things, which is wonderful. And I think today I'd like to go into, I'm going to now describe all the family names, and then we're going to do some really fun interactive games with articulation, with sound. We're all going to do a little bit of breathing. We're going to talk about sound production and how you can improve your technique a little bit. And if you've got, for those who play the recorder, your recorders at hand, go and get them. Everyone who is a player is interested, even if you don't know what to, you know, how to play. Some of the things we're going to do don't require any skill in terms of learning, of knowing how to play the instrument. So if I stand up, I'm sure, I hope you can see my lovely collection of instruments. Actually today I've got 25 recorders here. I don't have the very, very big ones, the very, very tall ones. But I have the sort of biggest one I've got is I've got 2 bass recorders. Now, when we talk about recorder family, normally I like to explain it in terms of first names and last names, because the recorder is not a generic term for one instrument. It's actually a family name for a big, big group of instruments. So I always say, well, my first name is Lisete, and my last name is Da Silva Bull. So the recorder is the family name of these beautiful instruments. So if I start with the one most people will recognize as the descant recorder of the soprano, or the soprano recorder, because in different places in Europe we call it the soprano, and here in UK we call it the descant. First name obviously will be descant, and the family name will be recorder. So there we have it. This is a plastic Yamaha instrument that is actually quite widely available and quite easy to start on, and actually it's a very nice instrument to start playing. If you could stay clear of see-through recorders or things you can buy in supermarkets as part of packs, that would be a really, really good idea, because these instruments are actually quite amazing feats of engineering, and it doesn't do them a good service to have instruments that may look a bit funky, but they won't sound as good as they could. Now, following on from this instrument, I have to say I have quite a few descant recorders, and perhaps you'd like to see them. I've got my lovely descant recorder, wooden descant recorder at concert pitch. I also have a descant recorder at baroque pitch. And I must say, for those, they may not know this, there are 2 systems of fingerings, the German fingering and the baroque fingering. And again, I would always advise people to use the baroque fingering system of recorders. Anyway, so you can see that my baroque pitch recorder is longer, because the longer the tube, the lower the sound, and that's how it goes. And I also have I've got 4 Ganassi or Renaissance type instruments, one of which you're going to hear today. And they come again from, these are different makers. It's a Spanish maker, which I forget the name now. This is my first Ganassi recorder that I bought, I think I was 16, a long, long time ago. And I've got these, this one is a wonderful one made by, I've got blank now, I can't remember her name, which is terrible, but I'll remember her name. Is beautiful instrument, made in Holland.
Lisette, we'll put up the names on the YouTube film.
Yes.
We'll credit all the makers afterwards, because it's hard to remember 30 odd names.
Brilliant. Adriana Breukink. Thank you, Adriana. You're fabulous. Thank you. And then there's a Kovlicek baroque pitched one as well, which is beautiful. This one is factory made, but it's got a wonderful, wonderful sound. And then come the treble recorders. Now, if we put a treble recorder near a Descant recorder, you can see the difference in the size. And if I play a bit of the Descant recorder, actually the Baroque pitch gives it such a beautiful mellow sound. It's the opposite of squeaky and yucky, which is really nice, which the modern pitch isn't, by the way. I must also say that I've got instruments that are at modern pitch, which we consider A 440 hertz. Baroque pitch, it's A 415 hertz, which is a whole half tone below. These are approximate pitches that we use as performers now, because actually the pitch range in the 18th century and 17th century, 16th century, even 19th century was wild and very, very different from town to town, from country to country. And these are approximations to make our lives a little bit easier as performers. Is uniformed. Is that a word? Uniform. It's made it uniform, so that we can play with other people from other countries and colleagues from all over. This is a treble recorder. This is modern pitch, and this is made by Yoav, the wonderful Israeli maker, Yoav Ran. And I'm very fond of this instrument. And I've had many, many happy years with this, so thank you, Yoav. Then I come to, oh my goodness, right, put it down. My Baroque pitched trebles, one by Friederich, I forgot his name now, I'm completely blank. This is a Stainsby model, and this is a Tenor model made by Michael Grinter, and this is Friederich von Huene, actually one of the last ones he made, the senior, who's sadly no longer with us. And this is in fact the instrument I brought to England to audition to the Royal Academy with, all those years ago, and I have such lovely memories of this instrument. And you must realise, for all players and for all of you who play, our instruments are such a big part of us, and there's such an important human element in that. And they have got really beautiful instruments. They are two different models, and you can see the difference, the design difference, and the top and the beak. I don't know if you can see, that's a whole other talk about construction and design, because there's so much in it. This is an English model, Stainsby, and this is a German model, Tenor, from the sort of first quarter of the 18th century. I also have, let me tell you about this instrument, which is actually brand new. It's made out of a special resin, and it's hand turned and hand finished with a wooden block. It's not exactly plastic, and I actually really like this instrument. It's by Vincent Bernolin, who's a French maker who has patented this type of instrument, and he's worked in, he's a really lovely wooden instrument maker and very experienced, and he's created these for ease of use because they don't block up as much. So as a teaching instrument, I really, really enjoy it.
Lisette, we've got a couple of questions coming, but I'll leave them till the end of the recorders, because I know you've still got tenors and basses. I'm just keeping an eye on questions.
Quite a few of them. Okay, so then we come to my lovely tenor recorder in D. There are many, many types and sizes that perhaps nowadays we would use. You've got fourth flutes, you've got Descant recorders in D and in A. Here I don't have them, but I have a couple of tenors in D. One is a voice flute, and the other one is a Renaissance tenor in D as well. It can be used in consort music or in solo repertoire, and I really love their lovely, gorgeous, low, mellow sound. And again, like last time, I will show you the difference between the two. It's quite pronounced in design, of course. Recorders started their lives in one piece, and then two pieces. And as you can see, there's both this instrument here, which is descant, and these have got this lovely ornate bits at the joints, and that's actually a really clever way of strengthening the tenons of these instruments. So they both, you know, are appealing, but also they are really good at keeping those joints stronger. I also have a very, very old model of a Merck tenor. This was my first wooden tenor. And again, goes back, I was a young teenager. I can't even remember how far back that goes, all the way back in Portugal. But as you can see, you've got these keys here, where this one doesn't have, and my other tenor doesn't. And this is sort of modern design, helped to facilitate the closing of the bottom hole there. Oh, you can't see, sorry. There. Because my finger would have to be really, really long. This system is used already in bass recorders, of course, to help.
Lisette, have you got a bass recorder that we can just see, actually?
I certainly can.
And then I'm going to give you a question about the voice flute.
Brilliant, brilliant. Let me just put this away. There we go.
And actually, whilst Lisette's getting her recorders ready, do go and grab recorders if you have them, because I know we're coming to some things everyone can join in with at home.
Now, I've got this instrument, which is a bass recorder. I've got two bass recorders I'll show you. I've got more, but they're on loan at the moment. I've got bigger instruments, but they're on loan. So this is a bit more engineering. It's quite an old model for Rossler. And I don't know they made this particular make anymore. But as you can see, is that a bass recorder doesn't have normally, traditionally, wouldn't have this bent top. And this bent top was created to help people who were shorter, or even children as well, to be able to reach. Quite old, starting to sound a little bit rickety, but I'm very, very fond of it. And then you've got this bass recorder, and again, you're able to see that's got lots of keys, and the keys really are there to help you reach the holes, because otherwise my fingers would have to be really stretchy to be able to hold. And the bigger the recorders, the more creative makers have to be really with it. It does help with the bigger instruments if you've got longer fingers and bigger hands. Of course it does. Now this here is designed really to get the air into the recorder. And I've left it on today. But I normally don't play with it. And normally I quite like, because this is where the air goes in. And I'd rather have as much direct control of where the air goes. But again, this helps by giving you a little bit more space and a shorter amount to get air into the recorder.
Lisette, just briefly, because I know everything you've got in store for us this morning, and it's so tantalising. I want to hear it all.
Yes.
I've got a question from Sue. Which fingering do you use on a voice flute, or do you transpose?
I transpose.
Okay.
Every single instrument, because I've got recorders in G, Ganassi, trebles in G, tenors in D. I always transpose. Yes, it does take a little bit more work working out, but once you do, then you can read pretty much anything. And this is why recorder players' brains are so fantastic, because we have to do this amazing amount of transposing. Most people don't realise.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, so we were going to look at a little bit about articulation, weren't we, with recorders in hand? And then I know you're planning to come on to some Van Eyck, perhaps.
That's exactly it, yes. So when it comes to articulation and when we get to technical things, now I always like to say the articulation is the speech of music. And there's a lot that goes on into playing any instrument, but in this case, the recorder, into making it speak and making it clear and having all kinds of wonderful degrees of gentle articulation and a harsh articulation. There's a big parameters, and this is something everyone can join in. So if you imagine, let's just kind of imagine we have a camera inside our mouths. If you're standing normally, just in a relaxed way, and your mouth is a bit semi-open, just a little bit, just notice where your tongue lies, where it rests. Is it up or is it resting on your teeth? So I know mine is resting on my teeth. So this is your tongue and these are the teeth here, and that's where it naturally wants to be. So the trick is to really use it in the best possible way, because it's a muscle, and if you use a lot of the muscle, it's going to seize up. And it's one of the things that everyone knows when you play the recorder or the flute, is that the muscle can seize up. So historically, people like Ganassi, for instance, gives us tables of articulations from soft to hard. And there's a wonderful amount of things we can do in our mouth with consonants. For instance, I always start teaching my students, just asking them to say the word teddy without moving their mouth. So this is something anyone can do. Teddy, 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 teddy.
Should we try that at home, Lisette?
Okay. Please join in. Teddy, 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 teddy. I'm making a sound only because so you can hear it. So notice what part of the tongue moves. And mine does the tip of the tongue just near my upper teeth on the gum. Teddy, 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 teddy. You can say things like tedious teddy. Tedious teddy. And the trick is, and this will come to for tone production, is to keep all the engine. Imagine that you've got a cavern, a cave, lovely and open. So the mouth directs the sound. It's a bit like on the flute. And you open everything, everything relaxed. You can take for harder articulation, doggy. Doggy, 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 which is what we call double tonguing, when you've got the tip of the tongue and the back of the tongue. Doggy, 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 doggy. Or tucka, 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 tiki, 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 tiki. So you can do, if I demonstrate a little bit. So if I'm saying tada, and I must say, there is a wealth and variety of combinations of these, by the way. There's some wonderful things you can do. These are just sort of really, really basic. Or tucka. So these are used for really fast passages. Historically, there are things which I find really curious, because I'm not a native speaker of English, and my English is fluent, of course, but I had to really work at doing the sort of dugga and tucka. They tend to be more common and easier, more fluent for people in the Northern Hemisphere, in Northern Europe, by the way, because they can be sounds and consonants that you find in your own mother language. So, for instance, what once talks about the English articulation, which is diddle, which of course, even in nursery rhymes, hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, I find that really hard. Diddle 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 diddle. I had to really work hard.
It's probably a lot of us haven't practiced our diddles since we were in nursery school, though.
Well, there you go. But for me, everything lies in slightly different, because my mother tongue is much more at the front. So I'm more suited for the Italian style of articulations that, for instance, again, I'll refer to Ganassi, refers to which is lere, lere, lere. Now, that brings me to a whole variety of things you can do with the tongue. From t, d, r, l, n, it's all possible, and it's all good. There is no wrong in this, and the brilliant thing is to have the widest variety. Now, the next thing you can do with your tongue is flutter tonguing. And that is fluttering of the tongue, which everyone from as you know, earliest children learn to do, which is to roll your tongue. Yeah, something everyone. Some people find it easier than others, by the way. So if you can't do it, don't worry. You can do it on the front or at the back. Some people find one easier than the others, but they can be used as part of this thing we call extended techniques. Which is really lovely. And you also can do tongue vibrato, would you believe it, which is the fluttering of the tongue to change, to manipulate the airwaves and the pressure. You can see, you can hear it. Because vibrato is never made by the tongue, but you can use it.
That's really fascinating. So it's equivalent for us string players of, you know, we do vibrato. Sorry, I haven't got a cello here. My hand. With the finger, it's using the muscle in the same way, but it's a very controlled movement. It's amazing. And I'm guessing a lot of the tonguing techniques apply to other wind instruments as well.
Oh, yes, and some more than others. I think as recorder players, we are so lucky we don't have a reed, for instance, because reed can get in a way, can you know, have other things that are brilliant about it. But we've got such a breadth and variety as recorder players. Just experiment it, see where you can go. I mean, the important thing is to keep your throat open, keep all the airway and your mouth, all the everything, your whole face and head, sort of in a relaxed state and aware but relaxed. Because then you are also adding resonance, and we'll come to that later. But there's many things you can do. It's a really fantastic thing. Now, I've got a lovely little piece by Van Eyck, Jacob Van Eyck, and I talked about him a little bit last week. He was a blind carry-on, Dutch then, carry-on, I believe he was Dutch, carry-on player who worked in Utrecht, who was responsible for this amazing system of because the carry-on is like a bit like akin to an organ, but instead of pipes, the keyboard is connected to bells. And there's some wonderful examples all over the world, including in Portugal, where I come from. And people flock to hear these wonderful instruments because, of course, you can hear them in the square, so you can do that really easily. What was extraordinary about him, he was also a very gifted recorder player and improviser. So he was paid by the council, I believe this, please correct me if I'm getting these facts wrong, but by the Council of Utrecht, for him to entertain passers-by in the city's pleasure gardens. Now, if we kind of think about what's the pleasure garden, and well, it's actually the gardens of the cemetery. But if you think that people's ability to walk after church would be in those, they were beautiful gardens, by the way, really, really beautiful. So he would be there with his recorder playing sets of variations on popular tunes. So this is not highbrow music. Sometimes he had hymns, Lutheran hymns, that he improvised on, but it picked up, and this is one of the brilliant ways we know what was around and available. Musicians typically have always travelled around. And so this next piece I'm going to play is called the English Nightingale. And you may find a couple of interesting things that I'm going to attempt to do. Last week we also mentioned that recorders were used in theatre for sleep scenes. They always have been used to depict birds and birdsong. And I hope you see why when I play you the English Nightingale. I'm going to use my Ganassi desk, and Van Eyck's recorder was not in two pieces, it was in one piece. And in fact, if I show you the cover of my edition, you will see. And it's got scales and fingerings of the range of the instruments. This is what it would have looked like. But this is sort of a copy of what we believe Ganassi's instrument was like. It's around the same time. Tati, I can't hear you right now. I think my computer's playing up. Can you hear me? Brilliant, you can hear me, that's fantastic, because I can't really hear you right now, and I think perhaps somebody was asking a question. Yes, I just still can't hear you, and I don't know quite, I can see that my microphone is working, but perhaps if you type me the question, that would be really, really good. It will come back. I know it will come back. Right, okay, that's fine. What I'd like to do now, if you can hear me, is I've got a couple of quotes about the recorder that I really would like to share with you. One is from from Sylvester Ganassi, from his book. I mentioned this book last week. No, I'm not on mute. No. Yeah, you can hear you, which is brilliant. It's just I can't hear you. It's gone funny. It's fine. It's just one of these things. Now, if I show you the frontispiece of this beautiful book, this is one of the stalwart books that you should really go and find out if you can as a recorder player. And the reason for that being, no, I can't hear you, no. The reason for that being is that this is a book for professional recorder players, published in 1535. So I'm just seeing a question. Any tips for flutter tonguing at the back of the throat? Yes, yes, absolutely. Gargle. Gargling. If you just, it'll be easier than if you tip your head back to do it, and gargle with water, because that is the same system. As you move your head back to the front, it becomes harder. So perhaps if you get used to how it feels, if you tip your head back, that will really help, because you can use both or either. Some composers in contemporary music, and that would be a whole different section, because it's such a beautiful big amount of gorgeous compositions. I think this, I have to say, and I must not finish this session without saying, this is the most exciting, historically, by far, a moment in history to be a recorder player. This is the best. There's never been a more exciting or better time. Our instrument has had such a wonderful revival, such a wonderful amount of makers doing such beautiful things, and composers as well. So this is a really fantastic time. Now, back in 1535, Ganassi also thought so, that the recorder is a fantastic instrument. And I'll read you a little bit about it. And I think we are running out of time. But I'll try and do a little bit more and talk a little bit about alternative fingerings and play a tune, and talking about tone quality perhaps. So, be it known that all this is Ganassi in 1535. Be it known that all musical instruments, in comparison to the human voice, are inferior to it. For this reason, we should endeavour to learn from it and to imitate it. You may say, how is it possible, since the human voice can utter all the sounds of speech? Or, I do not believe that the recorder could ever equal it. To which I answer that, just as a gifted painter can reproduce all the creations of nature by varying his colours, you can imitate the expression of a human voice on a wind or a stringed instrument. The painter reproduces the works of nature in varied colours, because these colours exist in nature. And this is such a beautiful, beautiful quote. And it brings me to the alternative fingerings, the louds and softs, how you can create this wonderful breadth and variety of colours. And you can really do it. If I get my lovely Grinter treble. When it comes to alternative fingerings, again, although we get given fixed fingerings when we're learning, there's no such thing as a fixed fingering in a way, because each instrument is different, each play is different, and you really can create your own sets of fingerings that works particularly for each instrument. And if I just change the angle of you have things, loud and soft fingerings, let's say, to create a sense of dynamics. Because the thing is, immediately, if you overblow on a recorder, it cracks and it goes out of tune, it goes sharp. But if you want to moderate that, there are things you can do, and they involve a lot of skill and practice, but they are so rewarding, and the real way forward. You've got loud fingerings, soft fingering, loud fingering, normal, and they can really vary. You can do wonderful things of manipulating the sound so it never goes out of tune. There's many, many more. I'm just rushing through Also, for tone quality, you must think as a singer. I cannot stress how important this is in terms of using your body as a resonance box. And for that, this is why I thought it was really important, and speaking to Tati about it at the very beginning of the project, about the value of doing a whole segment on breathing and posture exercises. Because this is without a doubt, even before you play, you pick up an instrument, your technique starts working. And if you've got the right posture, and if you use your breathing muscles, your sound is created by using from the tip of your toes to the top of your head. The whole of your body is going to be helping you. And different notes resonate at different points. Yes, Tati? I can't hear you now. We've lost it completely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish off by playing a lovely tune that I think some of you may know. And this is variations. I mean, I could do, my goodness, maybe we'll have to revisit the recorder, Tati, and do more sessions for those interested. And please do let us know, because I'll be only too happy to talk about about its repertoire, about so much more about contemporary techniques and contemporary music. Now, this was part of a collection called the Division Flute. There was one for Division Violin. This was published at the turn of the century by John Walsh, who's Handel's publisher in London. And I wonder if you can work out what tune it is. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'm going to play some of the variations. I may give a clue as to what it was, because melodies and tunes remained in popular culture for a long, long time. So this is a really clear example of how far forward this music came. This is such a shame. Technology has failed us, but we've carried on, which is really, really good. I wonder if our wonderful listeners can hear you, though. Right, no, it's gone. So shall I say, thank you very much for being with us today. It has truly been an honor to have all of you from all corners of the world. I'm only too aware and very honored that you have joined us in this session today. And do please keep following. We have our YouTube channel, the Brook Street Band, with the logo that you'll know which one it is. And we will keep uploading things, and please do keep in touch and ask questions. It's been a real joy to be able to do this and to have contact with people from all over, players and non-players. So thank you very much. I'm going to say bye-bye now until next time. I shall be back in 2 weeks to talk about a bit more recorded flutes. Bye!